Right, and we're live. A very good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in again to another hopefully wonderful episode of Streaming School. It's great to have you all with us again. My name is Leon Hady. Really pleased to have you with us, and really looking forward to today's lessons. As you know now, because we're going to be extending this for a lot longer, till maybe up till the end of the summer holidays, we're going to be reducing the format slightly. So we're going to make sure that we've got 2 lessons a day, nice and quick, back to back, and then they move forward from there, and we progress and develop on from there. So without further ado, I get to say a very good morning to Nisha. Good morning, Nish.
Morning.
Oh, good. I'm good. Good morning, Jackson.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm really well. Thanks a lot for joining us again. And the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. This is Action Jackson, and I'm the resident motivator here at Free Streaming School. I just got to get my music on in the background. I think it's a feel-good Monday. I think most people say, oh, well, it's a Monday. I haven't got time to be motivated. Well, imagine if your heart said that to you. This morning, I don't want to get up. We'll be dead. Well, good morning and welcome. You've never seen me before. My name is Action Jackson. I'm here to inspire you, to motivate you into your day. Everything is about what you think. Everything is about your mindset. Everything is about your energy. The more energy you have, the more you're able to do. And for me, life is about positivity. So here's what we're going to do. Watch this. We're going to kick off the day with a little phrase. And it's a very simple phrase. And it says, I am amazing. I never get tired of saying this because phrases increase my emotion. It goes like this. I am amazing. With a big smile on your face, you've got to say that to yourself every day. I've got a bit of James Brown in the background. Woo! Come on. That's a feel-good movie. Now watch this. As good as I'm feeling, you might not be feeling as good. Well, my job is to get your energy up. I'm going to share something with you very quickly that I think will change the way you look at today and the rest of your life, hopefully. And as you go into today, I want you to have that in mind. So I'm going to share my screen right now so you can actually see. Here we go, rock and roll. Now, everything is about emotions. Everything is about emotions. And the foundation, as you already, some of you can even teach me this by now. Your thoughts will always affect your emotions. Your emotions will always affect your actions. And your actions will always affect your results. The one thing you need to look after is your thoughts, because that's the beginning and the end of everything. So what do I want you to think about today? Well, that phrase that I said to you, I am amazing, is what I want you to think about. You might not feel it, but I want you to say it to feel it. Today, I want to lean my message towards impact. Impact. You know what? We're on a lockdown, and many people are dealing with this lockdown in different ways. Some people have become so overwhelmed. Others are able to deal with it, and others can't. I've had many people call me saying, listen, can we just have a chat? I'm going through a lot at the moment. Some people have lost their jobs. There are friends of yours who can't handle this lockdown, maybe because they're living in a very difficult situation. There are some of your friends who don't even have proper internet access. Today, I want to really teach you the power of impact. Here's a quote. The secret to living is giving. The secret to living is giving. Now, at this age, you might say, well, I don't have lots of money to give. No. You might not have money to give, but guess what you do have to give? Time and attention. Who in your circle of friends need you? Now, we could easily be concentrating on our own needs and not concentrate on other people's needs. Today, the way I want you to motivate yourself is to think about someone that might need what you have. Wait. You've been enjoying Free Streaming School for quite a while now. How about you send the same information to a friend? Maybe they can just come and get some motivation and some information from Free Streaming School. That's one way of giving to a friend. See, I am where I am today because someone gave to me. And I'm going to be able to progress in life by what I give to others. See, this world, we are one big family. And the more we support each other, the better. And I tell you one thing, there's no way you can help somebody out and you not feel good about yourself. So if you want to feel good about yourself, reach out to someone today. Send them an emoji. Send them a funny TikTok video of some sort. Why? We all need one another. Remember this phrase, the secret to living is giving. Hey, the secret to living is giving. The secret to living is giving. Hey, the secret to living is giving. Who do you give to? And how do you give? This is what I'm going to finish off with. Might be through a phone call. Might be through a message. Might be through doing a video to someone that you know might be going through. You don't even know if they're going through something, but it's up to you. Now, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a time in my life when I was going through a lot. I was at school and I wasn't really confident in myself. And I remembered my maths teacher asking me to stay behind. And I thought, oh, where we go again? I got in trouble. He sat me down and said, Jackson, I know you've got lots of potential and I know you can do well. He sat me down and he showed me a particular problem I was suffering with, I was struggling with. And after understanding that problem, guess what? My confidence went up. And I will forever be grateful for that man on that day for helping me move one step forward in my knowledge. See, how do I remember that? I remember that because it impacted me. Today, I want you to go and impact somebody. And if everybody decided to impact somebody, the world will become a much more better place. Whatever you do, please, as my friend James Brown would always say, hey, I feel nice, like sugar and spice. Come on. Whatever you do today, please remember the secret to living is giving. Help a friend to improve. You can come and find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Action Jackson, on all platforms, Action Jackson Live. Thank you so much. Handing back over to my dear, amazing friends who have been helping me to stay on my A game every single day for the last couple of weeks, Leon and Nisha.
Thank you so much, Jackson. Really, really appreciate it, buddy. What does the rest of this sunny day hold for you?
Well, I'm going to try and enjoy some of the sun, spend some time with baby, and I'm finishing off my book, actually. I've got to finish off the draft by the end of May.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Really, really glad to hear that. Well, look, have a great day, and we really look forward to picking up with you soon.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. All right. Hey, Nish, how are you?
Hey, good, thanks. I'm good.
Yeah, really, really. Looking forward. You look like you're covered in sun.
I know. I'm actually really loving sitting where I'm sitting. Windows just on my right, and the sun rises on this side, so it's really nice.
Yeah, well, it makes it sound like we sat there a while.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to just stay warm.
Brilliant. Well, we'll shift across to the media lesson now, so that everyone across the country gets a share of the media lesson. So I will flip to that. And we're very grateful again to Mr. Matthew Murphy for sharing this media studies lesson with us. I hope it's a great benefit to you, that it is to all of us. And thank you again for joining us.
Good morning and welcome to another week of GCSE Media Streaming School. My name is Matthew Murphy and I'd like to welcome you to this lesson, which is going to be the first part in two parts on a really huge subject in media, one that's really important that all media students understand, but it's so big a subject that I'm going to devote two whole lessons to it to break it down into nice, small, easily digestible chunks to make it easier for you to get to grips with the whole thing. Okay, so before we dive right into what that is, I want to start with a quote which is going to be useful for what we're going to look at today. I can't remember who this quote is from. I'm sure if you Google it, it will come up with who it's by, but it's lost in the depths of my memory exactly who this quote is by. And it says that the media doesn't offer us a window on the world. It doesn't present reality, it represents it. So there's a lot of meaning to be found in that quote about exactly the nature of reality and truth within the media. And this whole subject comes under one umbrella when we talk about this in GCSE and BTEC media. That word is representation. So if we go back to the quote a second, it's effectively saying that what we see in the media is not necessarily the reality that the objective reality that we see as individuals. Everything that we see is mediated through other people's opinions. We are seeing the world through other people's eyes, other people's decisions, and all the creative processes that have gone into making that media text. That media text, regardless of how it looks and feels, is not reality. It's a represented version of reality. So if we take that word representation, and I don't wish this to be patronizing or anything, but when I was beginning to learn this, this really helped me to think of what we mean by representation. If we just break the word down into two, in that we're representing reality. And that can be done in lots of different ways with lots of different means of doing that. But I think one way that it's really fantastically put into a nutshell is from this old advert by the Guardian newspaper. Now, the quality of it isn't great because it's from 1986, but what it does is it helps to give you a really good idea of some of the things that we're going to be talking about and that you're going to be learning as we talk about representation in this and the next lesson.
An event seen from one point of view gives one impression. Seen from another point of view, it gives quite a different impression. But it's only when you get the whole picture you can fully understand what's going on.
So that really quite succinctly kind of summed up all the things that go into representation, where we've got to be thinking every time we see a media text that we're seeing somebody's idea of what that thing should be, what that event or what that story or what that person should be representing, or how they should be represented for our viewing or our consumption in a media context. So specifically, things that fall under the umbrella of representation in the media are gender, age, sexuality, ethnicity, national and regional identity, and events. So some of those will sound familiar from when we looked at audience theory, and there is some crossover there with kind of demographic groups, but we're not necessarily looking at those words in the same way as we were when we talked about demographics. Now we're looking at the way in which male and female gender, for instance, is represented in a TV show or in a video game, or the way that ethnicity is shown in mainstream newspapers. For instance, it's those specific things. That's what we mean when we use these words when using representation as our umbrella. So in today's lesson, there's going to be 6 key words which you need to learn as a student when you're writing or talking about representation, either in an exam question or in coursework. So it might be useful, if you haven't already, to get maybe a pen and a bit of paper to make some notes on these words as we go along, because that's going to probably prove much more useful when you come to do the task later on. So the first of those keywords is construction. We talk about construction of representation. We also talk about mediation of representation, selection, anchorage, stereotypes, and ideology. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through each of those 6 keywords in a little more detail and give you some background details and some hopefully useful examples of where you would see it in the media, so that you can begin to understand how to talk about, how to write about representation in the media. So let's go to the first one, which was construction. Now, if you take a second to think about what that word means in other contexts, it gives you a clue as to what it means in a media context as well. And it's simply about how that particular media text is put together, how it's, if you like, constructed. So this goes back to some of the things that we were talking about in the very first weeks of streaming school, when we were looking at mise-en-scène and editing and narrative. These are all ways in which a media text can be constructed. Those kind of technical ways that a media text is constructed and put together. And obviously, when we were looking at editing, I introduced you to this idea that the editor is the person who decides where you should look and is in control of how the audience perceives certain things. And obviously that comes down to how it's put together and its construction when we're talking about how, whether someone's gender or age or sexual orientation or ethnicity, how that's represented on the screen. Obviously, mise-en-scène and editing and narrative are very useful in moving image and games media, but obviously in print and web media, we're talking more in terms of construction, as far as like the layout of images and writing and text and how that is shown on the screen. how that's shown on the written word on the printed page. So the second of those 6 key terms which we were going to go through was mediation. And again, this is a word that we've come across in a different context when we were talking about audience theory and about mediated meanings. And mediation simply means the process of creation, during the process of creation, the thoughts and the opinions of the values of those involved in creating it are inherently put into that media text. We can't separate ourselves as creators from our own opinions and our own values, and how we then put that into the media texts that we create. So that could be both unconscious and conscious bias. Obviously, every person on the planet has their own unconscious biases, which may come through into the media texts that they create through the process of mediation. But obviously, it's worth bearing in mind that sometimes that bias is not unconscious, it's definitely 100% conscious, it's on purpose. And I'm going to explore some very specific examples of that later on in this video. So that little picture there, which you may have seen before, maybe in an English lesson or a sociology lesson or something like that, where it shows you that this picture here, it shows you that what you're seeing on your TV screen or on your mobile device is simply one area that the creator of the media text has chosen to show you. So that little graphical way of showing you exactly what we mean by mediation. So selection is the next word that we were going to explore. And effectively, it just means what is selected to include out of all the different things that make up this media text. So if you're trying to tell a story for a news article, you've got to select which parts of the story you want to tell and how you want to show it. Because most media creators don't have the luxury of a massive amount of time to get their message across or their story across. So they have to select which parts they want to include. And selecting certain points of view over other ones. Sometimes what is taken out, what is omitted, is just as important as what is included. And for this example, I want to jump across the Atlantic to America and show you in terms of how certain points of view are represented or left out, to show you an example from Fox News, where they're talking about the coronavirus in America.
We also have new information tonight that you heard John Roberts ask about the origins of the coronavirus. Multiple sources say this may be the costliest government cover-up of all time by China. The belief now, you heard the chairman of the Joint Chiefs asked about it, that the intelligence was inconclusive, but there is a growing belief that the COVID-19 virus originated in the Wuhan lab, not as a bioweapon, but as China's effort to find and deal with viruses to show the world China was as good as or better than the US on that front. It's believed.
So it goes without saying that that particular news article didn't get any kind of coverage outside of the United States. Fox News, for those of you that don't know, is a very pro-Trump news organization. They only really ever run stories which are backing Donald Trump. They're very rarely critical of that president. So there's an example of where a selected point of view has been given possibly greater coverage than it necessarily deserves, simply because of that person's point of view. The people who are, again, the mediation, the person who makes that media text, their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own values are then being shown to you through the medium of that news article. So obviously very selective parts of that story are shown to you right there. Anchorage is a phrase used to talk about the text that we see that anchors to an image. So they're the words that go alongside it. So obviously in a newspaper, those things are the headlines and the images that go with it. But then we might also see anchorage in things like graphics that go with a TV advert or in a billboard poster or things like that, where there's text and images alongside each other. The text will use techniques to anchor the image and the text together. So let me show you some examples. So let me show you this example here from a film from a few years ago. You can see there that there's an image of a man at the top of what looks to be something like maybe Alcatraz or a prison or some kind of foreboding island. And we can see that the text there is anchoring that character and that location into one kind of whole story. So rather than it simply just being a picture of the man with the name of the film, you've also got its location as well. So one thing is anchoring another. So pretty much all printed media does that in some way, that the text and the images anchor together in some way to help reinforce their meaning. So we're going to look at stereotypes now. So in case you've not heard that word before, a stereotype is simply a simplified depiction of a person or a group of people which seeks to exaggerate their characteristics. So a really good example of this is The Simpsons pretty much stereotypes every single type of person and nationality. So here's a really good example of a particular nationality being stereotyped to comedic effect in The Simpsons.
David, both of you, you have a common land, a literature, and the sweetest songs on earth. Tura lura lura, tura lura lie. Hush, my little baby, hush now, don't you cry. Tura lura lura, tura lura lie. Tura lura lura.
So lots of stereotypes of the Irish being shown in that particular video, hopefully to comedic effect. I'm sure the makers of The Simpsons didn't mean it to offend anyone. It's exaggerating the characteristics of what is perceived to be a nation of people, as if to say that all Irish people behave in this way, or the nation of Ireland can be reduced to a series of stereotypes like leprechauns and things like that. And obviously stereotypes are dangerous because they can lead the audience to generalize. So if you didn't know any better, you might assume that all Irish people behaved in that way. Just as an example, obviously I could have chosen 1,000 different examples, especially from The Simpsons, but I chose that one. So what I'd like to do now is to show you a different kind of stereotype. We talked about the kind of the national identity stereotypes in The Simpsons here, but I'm just going to play you this little 2-minute clip because it's going to form the basis of the task that I'm going to ask you to do at the end, but it also shows stereotypes in a different way. And hopefully you should be able to see some of the other things that we've been talking about selection and about mediation. You should be able to begin to see some of these in this clip as well.
James Turner Street in Birmingham is not your average street. There are 99 houses, 13 nationalities, and most of the residents are claiming benefits.
Probably 5% of people on this road that are working. It's mad. It's just like one great big family. Is there any point?
Don't talk to me.
Is there any point?
Do not
Is
talk
there any point?
to me.
I don't think you could ever meet anything any more dysfunctional.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, send me down a couple of hours.
Over the course of a year, through good times and bad.
So a specific demographic group there shown in what you might consider to be a stereotyped way, or maybe not. And then partly what we're going to look at later in the task is going to get you to delve into that in a little more detail. So we're coming to the final few now. One of them is ideology. So that being that the ideas and the beliefs are then just represented into the media text by those people who produce them. So obviously in the run-up to, say, the Brexit vote, the ideology of the people who own The Sun was very clear to see. if you don't know the Sun newspaper, you can kind of tell which side of that particular argument they were on in there. So obviously they are representing a particular political view for all to see, and they're not doing anything to try and hide that. Their ideology is plain to see. And again, the ideology of the people behind Benefit Street might be plain to see as well. Whether you think that they were trying to demonize people on benefits, or whether they were trying to honestly do a documentary about them, that is part of the task that I'm going to ask you to do. So speaking of which, before we move on to the task, I just wanted to reiterate what the 6 keywords are that we looked at this morning. So they were the construction of representation, meaning how the representation of a certain group of people or a certain gender or ethnicity, how it is constructed from its materials. Mediation, how the opinions and the thoughts and the values of the people making that media product come through into their work. Selection, so which parts of a whole are chosen to be selected to go into the final finished text. Anchorage, how words and images anchor to each other to help reinforce meaning. Stereotypes, where we use an exaggerated set of characteristics to try and represent a whole area of society. And ideology, the political beliefs of the makers of the text and how they are represented on the screen or in the game or in the printed page. So the task that I'm leaving you with is to take that clip, which is the Benefit Streets clip, which I've left as an attachment to this video. And I want you to take those 6 keywords and I want you to use them to describe how the people in that media text are being represented. Those will be your 6 headings, the 6 keywords from today. So watch the Benefit Street clip and then choose 2, 3, or maybe all 6 of them and see how you can explain how the people in that TV show are being represented on the screen. I want to thank you for your time this morning. This has just been the first video on representation. As you can probably tell, it's a very, very big subject. So we're going to do more on it in the next lesson. But I hope you found that useful and informative, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Of course, we thank Matt for bringing that to us and for sharing it with us, and yeah, for taking the time during his returning to school schedule to still help us out here at Streaming School. We'll flick back to Nish. Good morning, Nish.
Morning, morning.
Do we have a wonderful task for said activity?
Yes. Yes. So Matt did explain the task in the video as well. The link to the task is here. I will add it to the YouTube and Facebook descriptions in the video, and it's use the 6 keywords to analyze this moving image text. The 6 keywords are in the video. You'll find them in there. If you want to catch up on anything, they're going to be on YouTube and Facebook.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nish. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry. Up next, we have chemistry.
Brilliant, brilliant. I will see you, in 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Bye.
Bye.